Can you also talk about the lack of a frontal lobe?
Yeah, we do need to talk about this. Okay. Okay. This is one of these issues that I always want to bring it in with the freedom, and I always run out of time. One of the other issues here of how they choose to handle things, sometimes it is not based on what you would think is the most logical way of handling things. And you might say to your kids, for example, or to your friends, what was he thinking? Right? And you kind of wonder, did you really think it was a good idea to jump from the 13th step? You know, whatever the teenage equivalent is of that. That actually might be the teenage equivalent, come to think of it. But here's what one of the things we found in the research that's really critical to realize is that in a teenager, there's different parts of the brain, right? Brain science shows us there's different parts of the brain. And the part of the brain that processes consequences is called the frontal lobe. That's where the processing of, if I do this, then this will happen, happens. It's in the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is not developed in any person until roughly the age of 20 or 21. Okay? It is not fully developed. So in other words, our kids are not only dealing with all these issues of freedom and identity, they're also brain deficient. No offense to the teenagers in the room. But the frontal lobe is not fully developed yet. So the area of the brain that allows them to process consequences is sort of hit and miss. It's not firing on all cylinders. And so what happens if the frontal lobe isn't processing properly? Automatically the brain, this is not a willful thing, by the way. This happens automatically. Automatically the brain clicks into relying on the centers of the brain that are further back that are governed entirely by emotion. And so what that means is that your kid may do something completely impulsive. It basically means that instead of processing logical consequences, if I do this, then this will happen. So therefore, I should or should not. Instead, they automatically do this impulsive, emotion-driven thing. And they actually actively need a parent's help or a teacher's help or youth worker's help in helping them think back through why that really wasn't the best idea. So they could see where their sort of train of thought derailed, so to speak. But just be aware, I mean, truly, this is a big deal. The kids, because their frontal lobe is not fully developed, there are going to be things that they're going to want to do, and it's impulsive, and they need your help to think it through. But you can't just say, no. That doesn't work. That works with kids our age. It doesn't work once you hit the preteen and teenage years. Because I said so only works with young kids. Now, obviously, as an adult, you need to still be able to establish your authority, and there may be sometimes you simply can't explain. But I can almost promise you, based on what we heard from the kids, if that becomes your primary answer, that is where it starts triggering that rebelliousness, because they want to know how to handle their freedoms, and they need your help in thinking things through. And the only way to do that is not because I said so, but because blah, blah, and blah.